I love that term. You framed it as your happiness plan. How do you define happiness?
What I define as happiness is, have I made a difference today in whatever it is that I'm doing? And I do a lot of self-reflection. So it's that feeling of contentment and challenge and excitement about getting up in the morning to tackle the day. And I think that, if there's an aspect of your life that you're either frustrated by or not quite content with, is being able to analyze it to say, okay, what is it that's missing? I'm feeling either bored or tired, or, what can I do to get past those feelings? And I really believe that, yes, of course, chance and circumstance are factors, but I think it's about choices. And I really think that you have to be the CEO of your own life. Yeah. And it's taking that proactive approach to addressing things. And, I always felt better in my life when I had low moments where I felt I was taking action to do something about it. I'm very action-oriented. And so, where I like to push people is if I feel they're wallowing, and I'll say, okay, what are you doing about it? And it's that push that you need to recognize. And my mother did that for me once years ago. And I'm thankful to her now that she did push me. And I think that that's what's needed sometimes. So happiness for me is recognizing and being grateful, of course, for what I have as well.
It's important to take that next step to then start moving.
And it doesn't have to be a big step,
right?
Right? It could be that little thing is, okay, how am I going to treat myself today or reward myself for getting through this difficult moment or difficult task? And then what you find is it helps you get to that next moment. And, those things that make you happy are going to change throughout the years and from time to time, and recognizing that. And it really is based on knowing yourself quite well.
And you spoke about that low point in your life when your mom pushed you. I'm curious if you wanted to share any other low points or challenges that you've had in your life, because failures or mistakes are part of everyone's lives, and it's what we learn from that.
In the year 2000, I was a senior executive in municipal government, and there was a decision made by the provincial government to merge the area municipalities into one. So at that point, there was a huge change afoot, and people had to either make a decision to leave the sector and go do other things or compete for positions. And I had decided at that time that it was time for a change for me. And I was afraid. And I was also getting remarried at that time, so a lot of personal changes. And, now 20 years later, if anything, I've thrived, and I'm glad I made the decision that I did. It took courage, I think, and sometimes you have to take calculated risks in order to say, I feel it's time for a change. It's scary. There's a little bit of the unknown, but I'm going to do this, and I have absolutely no regrets. I think it's the best thing I ever did. So it's turning that low point into, probably one of the most growth enacting experiences in my life.
And then so you said that's one of, the best decisions you've made so far. Are there any other decisions that you would say come under your, the top 3 best decisions you've ever made in your life?
I would say probably one of the other decisions is to marry my current partner, Dave. He's wonderful, and he's a rock, and he's very supportive, and we have a wonderful partnership. And I think that that partnership is really, really important. To help you be a good leader, you need to have that support. You need to have people you can rely on. The other great decision, I would say, is to move into the nonprofit sector. So my last job before coming into healthcare was as CEO of Ottawa Community Housing, and realizing the importance of housing as a social determinant of health, and really being very rewarded by the work I was doing in that sector. And I realized then that for me, my secret sauce was to be in an organization like VON, where I'm very motivated by the mission, but bringing in that business rigor so that we can help more people and be a stronger organization. So I would say those are some of the best decisions that I feel that I've made, certainly for me. And, it's a very, as you said earlier, subjective thing. What works for one person may not work for another, but this is something that has made me happy over the years.
Did you always set goals for yourself? Did you have a plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or a short-term plan for what you wanted to accomplish in your life?
Yes, I'm a planner, and it's funny because when I was one of my first jobs, and this is a long, long time ago, the person said to me, "What job would you like to ultimately be in?" And believe it or not, I was in my 20s, and I said, to be the CEO of a nonprofit organization helping people. And, it may have been a meandering journey to get there, but I do usually have a plan. As I got married again in 2000, and you have to adjust your plan, it's all the more important. And, having a plan, but having it be flexible. So that's why that happiness plan that I usually refer to with people is a 5-year window, and we review it annually, informally, and say, okay, how am I doing? Do I still want this? And it has to be fluid. It's good to have a plan, but it should also be flexible to reflect your changing needs and changing circumstances.
It's hard to predict what's going to happen. You really only have control over your actions, the daily things that you're doing.
Exactly.
And what's the vision you have for yourself for the future? Some of the goals that you are currently working on.
Yeah. I would say that it's to remain as healthy and fit as I possibly can, and also to continue contributing. I do a lot of board work as well as my core career, spending as much time with family as possible. I think losing both my parents in the last 4 years and seeing the effects of COVID and so on in the last while has really driven home the need to be spending time, valuable time with those relationships that you hold dear. So it's making sure that the balance that I'm exercising is a real balance that reflects my needs and changing needs, and making sure that I'm there for others. So I would say that sometimes your plans have to be flexible and not so specific. So when I ask others to work on plans, I say, tell me the kinds of things you want to be doing, not what job you specifically want, because you don't know that yet. And it's really what is going to give you that sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. For me, that sense of accomplishment is what drives me.
That reward is so important because, sometimes we accomplish a goal, but we don't celebrate it, which is
exactly
important. And how do you keep yourself growing? Are you reading? Are you listening? What sorts of things do you do to keep growing yourself?
I always have a book of fiction and a book of nonfiction that I'm reading. And so right now, the book that I'm reading that's nonfiction it's called We Are Unbreakable, Raw, Real Stories of Resilience from Women in Nova Scotia in 2020. So I don't know if you knew this, but, the shooter in Nova Scotia who shot and killed 22 people, 2 of those people were my staff.
Right.
We lost 2 staff, and it was very tragic and so on. And this book will likely include that. Nova Scotia has gone through an awful lot in the last year. So that's the book that I'm choosing to read nonfiction, and then I'll no doubt choose a fiction book in a short while that helps me relax. So to me is constantly, reading. I'm always taking some kind of course or webinar. When I see something cross my desk that is of interest for me or for others, I think even, that lunch and learn webinar at noon while you eat your lunch is, for me, a good mental break. And also the work that I do on boards helps me continually learn and also offer my learnings to others. So it's that evolving lifelong learning that I think is really, really important. And especially as you get older and you see people aging you realize how important it is to keep your mental and physical agility going because that's just going to keep you young and healthy.
And what motivates you to keep waking up every morning and doing the work that you're doing and keep going?
At the root of it is believing in what you're doing and in the difference that you can make. I've found being in a leadership position very motivating and liberating because I get to set the tone, and the tone is one of positivity and accomplishment. And I'm excited about tackling the day. I'm one of these people that probably are annoying because I'm not cranky in the morning. I'm actually in a good mood because I'm getting up to go do something. So it has to come from within, I think. It's self-motivation and believing in what you do.
Who has been the biggest inspiration in your life?
I would say my parents, for different reasons. They instilled great values, a lot of integrity, a lot of emphasis on giving to others and a community spirit. So I would say, and I lost both my parents in the last 4 years, so it's given me a lot of time to reflect. I miss them dearly. I think that if I had to say who has shaped me to be the person I am, it would be my family life, where it came from. I'm very grateful to them for what they instilled in me, and also the help they gave me to become the person that I am today.
What are some of those core messages that they gave you?
I would say the most important thing is be a good person. So yes, success is important, but the most important thing is to be a good person, is to be honest, have integrity, being able to look at yourself in the mirror, and giving to others. Frankly, pretty simple stuff, but such strong values. Be a good person and make a difference for others.
Who are your role models or mentors?
I've had 2 mentors throughout my career. They were both men. One is no longer with us. He died of cancer many years ago, and frankly, I'm still friends with his wife and the family. I became a family friend. And one is still alive, and he helped push me to where I am today. And the first mentor, it was interesting because this was in the 80s, at a time where it was not easy for women to be taken seriously and get ahead from the career standpoint. But he believed in me, and he was very helpful. And the last and current mentor that I have really helped instill some great skills and some great experiences. And he pushes hard, and we've become very good friends. And I'm very grateful to them. And this is why I feel a responsibility to mentor others, because I've had some help, and I think it's really important. None of us can do it alone. So I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, and I think I came through in an era where there weren't a lot of women, and I feel a real responsibility to help women overcome what I always refer to as the imposter syndrome, and to have more confidence. So while I mentor both men and women, I do recognize that women are socialized to want success for others and not necessarily to be confident in their own abilities. Right. And as a woman myself, I feel a responsibility to help with that.
Did you yourself go through that imposter syndrome throughout your career?
Absolutely. And you know what? There are moments where I still struggle with it. But once you know it's there and you can call it out and say, stop being ridiculous. Of course you can do this. But yeah, it's something you struggle with. And, it's almost embarrassing to admit, because people look at your achievements and they say, wow, and you're saying, are they talking about me? So I think it's, using humor to overcome it. But it really is something that, I guess in a way, it keeps you humble. And if that's what it does, then that's not a bad thing,
Not at all. Yeah, it's part of being human, I would say.
It is, yeah.
I know, Joanne, you're so passionate about mentoring. You generally have 10 mentees that you constantly mentor throughout your career, and that is commendable. How do your mentees find you, and what is the best way for aspiring leaders to find mentors?
The way that my mentees have found me, I've either found them or they've found me, a myriad of ways. So in some instances, it's been someone saying to me, I know someone who could use some coaching. Would you be open to taking that person on? In other cases, I've actually presented at conferences and had people approach me to ask me. In other instances, it's just been one conversation that leads to another, and next thing you know, you're in that mentoring relationship, it's something that I'm passionate about and that I find extremely rewarding. And I'll note as well that not only do I hope they learn from me, I certainly learn from them each and every day. And that's really something that the lifelong learner part of me really enjoys. I feel a responsibility. I've had mentors over my career, and I feel it's really important to give back. What gives me the greatest pleasure is helping other people to grow and realize their potential.
Many times they're sitting there with that untapped potential and, you can see it, but they don't see it.
And that the same thing happened to me I had a mentor who pushed me beyond what I thought I might be capable of, and I'm glad he did, because then I realized that I was capable of taking on more. So absolutely. Sometimes you need a little bit of that objective push, somebody who might see something in you that you might not yet see yourself. I agree.